My sister's boyfriend saved me from being abducted. My family thanked him by getting him fired, evicted, and doxxed. When I asked Mom why, she simply smirked and said, "Imagine explaining that to your child." Mom had Googled my sister's new boyfriend, Jerome, before he'd even stepped inside our home. Arrested assault charges, gang affiliation, all before 19. She announced it like a weather report while he stood in our doorway, waiting to be invited in. He was from Riverside, the part of town the news warned us not to go to after dark. Uncle Brendan ran a background check. Mom changed our locks that same night. Dad's friends started dropping by daily, casually mentioning their weapons collections whenever Jerome visited. They made him eat on the porch while we had dinner inside. I watched him through the window, still saying grace over his cold food. Jerome carried 2 wallets, one with his money, one to hand over if he got robbed. He called it the Riverside tax. He texted someone before entering our neighborhood and kept his location on constantly. Never complained when Mom made my sister sit across the room from me. Never flinched when Dad's golf buddies asked if she felt safe. He worked 3 jobs. Fixed our fence while we slept. Brought groceries nobody asked for. Every Friday, I watched him hand an envelope to someone at the bus stop. I assumed it was drug money. Everyone did until Jeffrey happened. My ex had been harassing me since. I ghosted him that Tuesday. He and 3 friends cornered me after school. Nobody disrespects me, he sneered, dragging me toward his car. Jerome appeared from nowhere. Let them go, Jeff. Jeff laughed. Who's going to make me? Jerome pulled out his phone. Your cousin Ray runs the youth program at Riverside Community Center. We went through it together. He dialed. Ray? Yeah, it's Jerome. Your nephew's here making some bad choices. Jeff's crew vanished just like that. My parents exploded. Gang connections. He threatened children. They filed complaints with all 3 of his employers. Dad's friend, a police captain, had Jerome pulled over 4 times that week, each stop matching a suspect description. They forced my sister to dump him publicly in the school cafeteria. She sobbed while he just nodded and walked away. The job losses came fast. First the warehouse, we can't have criminals here. They said then the restaurant parents threatened boycotts. Finally, the cleaning company. Insurance won't cover high-risk employees. I found him volunteering at the food bank, serving others and taking nothing. When I approached, he tried to smile. Your sister deserves better anyway. Why don't you defend yourself? That's when he cracked. What's there to defend? I have a record. That's true. I'm from Riverside. Can't change that. But why was I arrested? He looked away. My little brother was 12. Some older kids paid him to sell candy bars at school. The money turned out to be marked bills from a robbery. When cops came, his voice broke. You know what juvie does to kids like him? Small, sensitive. He wouldn't have survived a week. I understood what he meant, so he took the blame. I was 15, big for my age. I could handle it. He stood. Your parents aren't wrong. She deserves someone without baggage. I found my sister that night clutching a small box. Inside was a picture of an engagement ring. On the back, his calculations. Exactly how many overtime shifts it would take to afford it. 247 shifts. He'd crossed off 246. At the bottom, he'd written, "For when you graduate," with little hearts, the Friday envelopes. Payment installments to the jeweler. Those gang tattoos everyone whispered about. His brother's birthday. In Roman numerals. The scars on his knuckles weren't from fighting, they were from the factory job he worked nights. Mom found us crying together. For the first time since Jerome entered our lives, she looked uncertain. What did we do? My sister asked. Mom's silence was deafening. Jerome disappeared. His cousin Ray told us he moved to Chicago, taking a job with a youth program. He said he needed to go where his past couldn't hurt anyone else's future, especially anyone he loved. His last text to my sister, "Your family's right. My love isn't enough when it costs you everything." My sister wears that ring on a chain now. Mom no longer tells her to remove it. Sometimes I catch her staring at it with tears in her eyes. I know she's thinking about how good people can look dangerous when you're determined to see them that way. Our prejudice is so strong that people forget to look closer until it's too late. Jerome saved me from being kidnapped. We responded by taking everything from him. It wasn't long before I realized we both deserved a better future, one where we could be with whoever we wanted.
That night,
小红书
I sat at my laptop for 3 hours, cursor blinking over the upload button. My hands shook as I watched the progress bar inch forward. The video expose I'd spent weeks compiling contained everything. Screenshots of Dad's friends' messages, recordings of Mom's book club meetings, documentation of every job Jerome lost because of our family's campaign. My sister slept. In the next room, Jerome's ring box clutched against her chest like a lifeline. The upload finished at 2:47 a.m. I tagged it with every relevant hashtag I could think of, then collapsed into bed, certain the world would finally see what we'd done. 3 weeks crawled by. The view counter stuck at 47. 2 comments appeared, one calling me dramatic, another suggesting I needed therapy for my white guilt. Meanwhile, Mom hosted her Thursday book club as if nothing had changed. I pressed my ear against the thin wall, recording their conversation on my phone. The women praised Mom for protecting family values. One mentioned how brave she'd been to stand up to that Riverside boy. Another shared a story about her daughter's ex-boyfriend from the wrong side of town. They toasted with wine, celebrating their successful gatekeeping. I checked on my sister every few hours. She hadn't left her room in 5 days, surviving. On crackers, I slipped under her door and found her hunched over her desk, pen in hand. The words on the paper made my blood freeze. She'd been searching painless ways to die. When I finally used the spare key, I swept through her room, gathering every med bottle and sharp object. She didn't look up, just kept writing that horrible letter. The next afternoon, Carol, Dad's business partner's wife, stood on our porch with a casserole and a concerned smile. I watched from the stairs as she cornered Mom in the kitchen, her voice carrying clearly, "I have a friend who can check if that boy's really in Chicago or if he's stalking us." Mom's eyes lit up with interest. My phone buzzed. A notification from the neighborhood group chat. Carol's daughter, Crystal, had screenshot my video and shared it with her friends. The messages underneath made me sick. They mocked my white girl, tears over a thug boyfriend. Crystal added that her mom said he probably had other girlfriends in Riverside anyway. At 3:00 a.m., I woke to crashing sounds. My sister stood in her bathroom, phone in pieces on the floor. 7 years of bad luck, she whispered, staring at the shattered mirror, blood dripping from her knuckles. I ran into Carol at the pharmacy while buying bandages. She chatted with the pharmacist about certain people invading the neighborhoods, gesturing broadly while a black customer stood right behind her. The man's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Carol's voice grew louder, as if daring him to respond. Mom mentioned Carol's offer at dinner. Her brother-in-law, the police captain, could verify Jerome's location in Chicago, just to make sure he really moved away, she said. Dad stayed silent, pushing food around his plate. I wanted to scream that we'd already destroyed him, but the words stuck in my throat. My video suddenly jumped to 2,000 views. Someone had shared it in a Chicago community group. Comments split between support and accusations of white savior.
Hello， 大家好，我是你们的老朋友国人居士。关于如何用电脑玩这款游戏，大家可以看我视频下方的课程讲解。
Then Ray texted me. His message was brief but devastating. Jerome had seen the video. He wasn't happy I'd involved myself. I should delete it before it caused him more problems. My attempt to help was hurting him all over again. My sister found my hidden folder while I was at school. She confronted me that evening, holding printouts of Carol's Facebook posts about neighborhood safety, carefully worded warnings about keeping outsiders away. Mom burst into my room the next morning, demanding I delete the video immediately. She let slip that Carol had helped write those complaint letters to Jerome's employers. She knew exactly what words would work. 2 months passed. My sister started dating Adam, Mom's co-worker's son. He was everything our parents wanted. White, from a good family. She wore Jerome's ring hidden under her collar. At a family dinner, Adam joked, "She really upgraded from the charity case." Nobody laughed, but nobody corrected him either. I spent hours digging through internet archives and discovered Carol's file on the maintenance worker who'd assaulted her daughter 2 years ago. Charges had been dropped, lack of evidence. The description eerily matched Jerome. Carol covered it up to avoid scandal, paying for therapy and transferring Crystal to private school. Carol was running this as a twisted hobby, documenting threats, tracking license plates, wielding blackmail. The pattern repeated different targets, same tactics. My video hit 15,000 views. A woman whose black boyfriend had been driven out by Carol's campaign reached out. She provided screenshots showing identical harassment tactics. Carol wasn't an anomaly. She was a symptom of a deeper, systemic racism. Dad lost his biggest client. Mom blamed me, not our own actions. Carol suggested a lawyer for a defamation suit against me. She had someone in mind who specialized in protecting family reputations. Sister took a bus to Chicago, alone. She waited outside the youth center for 3 hours. Security footage showed Jerome spotting her and leaving through the back exit. He didn't look back. Carol's husband filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. Carol kept the house, the alimony, and her surveillance network. I approached a local journalist. Suburban racism wasn't news, it was Tuesday. Sister wrote Jerome a letter explaining everything our family's racism. Carol's orchestration, her own regrets. She sent it through Ray. His response, a photo of ashes. Jerome had burned it without reading. Knowing wouldn't change anything. Let him heal. Our parents backed up and moved to a small apartment on the wrong side of town. They fell from the heights of suburban respectability to the depths they once scorned. Carol faced misdemeanor charges for blackmail and fraud. House arrest at her mansion, including HOA duties. She continued wielding power through proxies. Crystal testified in a civil suit, revealing decades of psychological abuse. Carol's own words, her community protection rhetoric became evidence against her. The jury awarded damages, but most of Carol's assets were shielded in trusts. Finally, Jerome's lawyer established a college fund for his son Jerome JRB, a child born of love that survived hate. 5 years later, sister named their son Jerome JRB after his father. She raised him alone and told him, "Your father was the bravest man who loved us enough to walk away." Mom and Dad worked odd jobs who once wielded influence, now scrubbing floors for the very families they once judged. Carol ran a network, spanning 12 states. I wrote a small press book on suburban racism. Not a bestseller, just a record. Sometimes love survives everything except systems designed to destroy it. We proved that completely. Thanks for reading this. It really made me think about how quickly we judge people and how many good things we miss when we do.